Hi, I'm attorney Eric Bolves, and today we're going to talk about Medicaid planning. That's one of the questions that I get most often in my office. What is Medicaid planning? Well, a simple explanation is it's a process where we help people apply for Medicaid benefits that are designed to help with the cost of nursing home care. It's a very simple explanation, but it can get pretty complicated. The real thing here is that people are living longer. Back in the 30s, life expectancy was 58 for men and 61 for women. Now, it's 75 years for men and 80 years for women, although we know a lot of people who are living much longer than that. Someone who's 65 now, for men, if you're already 65, you will probably last till at least 82. Women, 85. So we're going to be around for a while. And the good news is that's great. We have long, productive lives. The bad news is that at some point, we're going to need some help. It's a growing problem of care. 40 million people, 40 million Americans in the country are now over the age of 65. That's 13% of the population, and it's growing. It's going to be 80 million by the year 2040. 75% of all of us at some time in our life are going to need long-term care. And half of us are going to need it for over a year. That's when the expenses really start getting high. 20% of us are going to need long-term care for over 5 years. Now, it doesn't seem like this was much of a problem in the past. So do you remember great-grandma, or maybe your grandmother, depending upon your age? Well, with me, it was great-grandma. Great-grandma lived at home with my grandmother, my grandmother and grandfather. Now, grandma was still a young woman. I was a little kid, so everyone seemed old to me. But grandma was still a young woman and could easily take care of great-grandma's needs. Now, great-grandma was still pretty active. She could get around the house, take care of herself. She wasn't a burden on anyone. In fact, she helped out a lot. Very self-sufficient. And if there was a time when anyone needed help, there were relatives just right around the corner. I mean, we all lived in towns where the families were not that far away. It's a little different now. But in the end, when great-grandma got sick and died, she did it quickly. Her illness did not last long, and she passed away fairly quickly. And that seems to be different now. These days with our parents, with mom and dad, it doesn't happen quite the same way. Now, today, everyone's fine. You're fine until you're not, okay? Being self-sufficient is really very important. But these days, the family members who would take care of people, everyone has a job. There isn't the mom who stays home anymore, hardly. And so in my case, there's no one, when my parents became ill, there wasn't anyone who didn't have a job who could stay home and take care of them. A lot of us are single. And so we are out, we're working, we're very busy, we have to work, don't have a choice. And it doesn't seem like anyone in the family lives anywhere close anymore. They're all over the place, all over the country. So, if someone does need help with their parents, who do they go to? I mean, it's a serious problem and becoming a bigger problem all the time. And the last thing is that these days, a person's final incapacity and illness can last years and years and years. We are very good these days about keeping people alive. We have the ability to do it. And of course we want to keep people alive in our family as long as they can. And the result of that here is that people need their final care when they are incapacitated, and that can take years and years and years. So, what do? Well, the options are either a person is going to live at home or they're going to live somewhere else. If they're living at home, they're going to need lots of care from someone. Maybe they're independent enough where they can live at home and take care of themselves during the day until people come home. That's great, and that works fine when it does. it gets to a point where you might need some outside help from visiting nurses or some agency or group that comes either on a weekly basis or on a daily basis and provides some additional home health care for our aged family member. And that's wonderful. It's a wonderful service, but it's not cheap either. The average cost these days is between $20 and $40 per hour, depending upon the help that's needed and the level of skill that's needed too. $20 to $40 an hour. So if someone's coming over for 4 hours a day, and they're charging $40 on a daily basis, that's already pretty darn expensive. Also, what comes with that is as people get older, they need stuff. They need equipment. They need oxygen machines. They need beds. They need walkers. So all of that can be done at home, but it's not inexpensive, and someone has to be there to help. So if someone can't be at home, where are they going to go? Well, they can live at a long-term care facility, and there are different kinds. There are assisted living facilities where a person can pretty much take care of themselves. They can shower themselves and bathe themselves and clothe and everything like that, and they might need a little help every once in a while. But the assisted living facility is great because they don't have to worry about cooking, they don't have to really worry about cleaning, and they have lots of things that they can do. The average assisted living facility right now in the Orlando area is $3,500 per month. That ain't cheap. Now, as a person, as their abilities decline and they need more help, the price goes up to the point where if you're in a nursing home, you're talking about at least $7,500 per month for this kind of care. And the reason is that someone in a nursing home needs constant supervision and care. And $7,500 a month is going to burn through your savings, no matter how much you have, fairly quickly. So how long will it last? So if you have $100,000, or mom or dad have $100,000 in the bank, that's going to pay for 13 months of nursing home care. That's all. Just a little over a year. And we know 20% of us are going to be there for at least 5 years. So even to pay for that 5 years, they would need to have $500,000 available to them. And this is just the basic costs, okay? There are additional costs involved in nursing home care, but $500,000 will last you about 5 years if you're lucky, all right? So my question is, what's in your wallet, all right? So, or mom's wallet or dad's wallet or their investments? That's all something that you have to look at. They may feel very secure that they've got $350,000 in the bank, but as you can see, if they get ill and need some really, good care, it's not going to take long before it just all goes away. So how do you pay for it? Well, the three ways that things get paid for are out of pocket. In other words, that's called private pay. That's where the person pays for everything. They write a check every month and it comes out of their savings, or maybe the family pitches in. And so that's basically private pay. There is long-term care insurance, where if you bought this insurance years ago at a reasonable rate, the insurance is going to pay for a certain dollar amount of care every month. Things have changed along those lines. It's become much more expensive because of the cost of care becoming much more expensive. And these days, policies may not pay for all expenses. So you may still have a long-term care policy, but you might also need additional help in covering the expenses. The third option is government assistance in paying for care. There's a VA program called Aid in Attendance that pays money directly to veterans or the wives and widows of veterans if they become unable to care for themselves completely. That's a good program. You have Medicare that pays for short-term stays, just short-term stays. And that's to help people rehabilitate after they go to the hospital or something along those lines. Medicare will not pay for the longer-term stay, and it will not pay for nursing home care. Just for a short period of time, though. So what happens after that? Well, after the Medicare runs out, you either got to start paying out of your pocket or you need to be able to qualify for Medicaid, which does cover long-term stays. So, Medicaid, let's talk about that for a minute. People say Medicaid and they most of the time think of one of the programs. There are two. The first program is general health care for the poor. General health care insurance for the poor. And you really, to qualify for this, you really have to be poor. And there's no two ways about it. The second program is the one that we are more interested in, and it is long-term care. It's designed for people who need to go to into nursing home care. Sometimes it applies for care at home and assisted living. And to qualify for this type of care, you don't have to be poor. Okay, you don't have to be impoverished. There are limits to your income and assets. So you don't have to be completely poor, but you do have to be careful when you're applying for this. So the deal here is that Medicare long-term care is a cost-sharing program. You pay for some, the government pays for another. The catch is there are limits to the kinds and amount of income and assets you can have. Not all income and assets will qualify you for Medicaid care. So, our job is to negotiate with Medicare so that the client's contribution is as fair and inexpensive as possible while preserving assets. Caution, not all income and assets qualify. Restructuring is often needed. You can't just give assets away like you used to be. You've heard things where people just transferred $100,000 to their son and then qualified for Medicare, Medicaid. That doesn't work anymore. Okay, there's a 5-year look-back period where Medicaid can disqualify transfers that you make and deny you benefits for years and years. So improper transfers can delay benefits for years. Don't try this at home. The application process is very complicated. I mean, the application itself is only a few pages, but the information that you have to put in there has to be done right. Common sense isn't enough. There are parts of this that are extremely illogical. I often use the word insane. So the trouble is that it strictly adheres to state and federal law and regulation. So if what you're doing isn't right by the book to the letter, you're going to get denied, and it's going to delay the ability to get the benefits and the treatment that your loved one needs. They're not going to cut you some slack, so it's got to be done right. Do you have any questions? If you do, my phone number is right here, 407-894-1002, or outside of Orlando, 800-610-2636. I can help you if you reside in the state of Florida, anywhere in the state of Florida. So I have an open phone policy. So if you have phone questions, give me a call. If I'm not on the phone or with someone else, I'll pick it up and I'll chat with you for a bit. If I am busy, you'll be offered a little 15-minute phone appointment, and we'll talk to you as quickly as we possibly can. So thank you very much for watching, and if you have questions, don't hesitate to call.